Hi there, welcome to a set of tutorials and sort of videos documenting how I've made certain things both compositionally and in terms of sound design and production within this album. One of the most prominent features of the album is of course the vocoder, which I've used to give the sort of overall synthetic feel to the vocal. Now, it's not quite as robotic as other bands which may have used it before, such as Daft Punk, very famously, of course. It has a slightly more organic feel because I've left things such as the intakes of breath in the vocal line, which is then modulates the carrier wave within the vocoder. Now, I should just briefly mention how the vocoder works. In this particular setup that I've got running, let me just open Razor. Here we are. Okay, so here's the patchlet I've put together for the vocal for this EP. Basically, it's a highly edited version of a preset called Rolling within Razor. Now, this is a vocoding preset that basically these are the two oscillators, which then are modulated by the input vocal, and then tonal, a little bit of verb, and some drive and limiting to give it to the tonal characteristic that it has. Vocoding is entirely about the formants that are put into the vocoder. Now, the way I've got this working, I had to kind of figure this out for myself. There wasn't really a hard and fast way of doing it properly, but you can see here I've got a stack with all of the components in it necessary to make it work. Here I have the vocal that has been recorded for this particular song. This is Quicken the Pace. This is the 5th track on the album, the beginning of section 2. I've got a compressor just really flattening out the vocal. It's quite a harsh compression, it's parallel. I've got the dry mix in there as well, and both the output, very quick attack and release, harsh ratio, and a relatively low threshold. Now, this does have an effect on the tonal characteristic of the vocal on its own, but that is not necessarily a bad thing, because this is the modulating wave, and the vocoder itself, the Razor patch, is the carrier wave. Now, this is a very similar concept to frequency modulation synthesis, where you have one wave modulating another, with the exception this isn't two waveforms, this is a vocal and then a waveform. Now, I'm just going to play the source vocal in isolation so you can have an idea of how this works. Basically, the way I've got it set up is this, so you don't hear the dry signal. This is sent bus 6. You can see there's no aux channel attached to it at all. It just sort of goes off into the ether, and it's sent pre-fader, sorry, there we go, with the dry signal right down at -infinity. Now then, you may have noticed the sidechain input on the vocoder is a bus 6 there. So that is the input, and then this module within Razor looks for a sidechain input to then affect the rest of the sound. So here it is in isolation.
Every little thing that you say, they don't matter anymore anyways. And every little thing that you say.
So quite a harsh, almost whispering timbre. But then when you apply the notes to it, generally 4-note chords during this section, it has a very different effect.
And every little thing that you say, they don't matter anymore anyways. And every little thing that you say, they don't matter anymore anyways.
So you can see there that how that is a vastly different characteristic to just the dry vocal on its own. how it takes on the formants within this pure vocal and then vocodes them into that new vocal. Now the problem with vocoding, sometimes if your pitch is too close, the pitch you sing, sorry, is too close to the note you actually play on the vocoder, you can get a washy, phasey, sort of almost verb-like response from some things at times, because the notes are in phase with one another. You get this kind of weird chorusy effect. So sometimes it is better to be a little bit out, and it is because it's entirely to do with the formants of what you say. So this vocal here and this vocal here are exactly the same. It's literally a carbon copy, just cut and paste over to here, except we have some different notes playing the melody. Now this is a much more melodic line rather than a harmonic one here, and a much higher in register as well. I'm just going to show how different notes and in a different register can affect the same bit of vocal.
Every little thing that you say, they don't matter anymore anyway. Every little thing that you say, they don't matter anymore anyway.
And I will finally show a little bit of that in context. I think it was about here. And then later on. So you can see how having the same vocal but very different notes can affect the timbre. I'm very quickly now going to cut to another project in which I can demonstrate how playing notes in octaves or unison has a more sort of strong, proud effect than this, which is slightly more harsh. Okay, so here we have Divisions. This is the fourth song on the album. This is a lot harsher. Well, I'll let the music do the talking here. So during the chorus, this has a very similar effect, hence I put it on a different vocal track, because I had to treat the original source signal differently to this one here. Basically, I just then now play part of the verse.
Years million so long ago, the cracks were shown. We should have known. Let me ask what it means to you. Give me the answer I know to be true. It's all the same.
So one of the useful features of the vocoder is, of course, that you can apply extra harmonies. This is the second verse, so you can see extra harmonies up here. But the main line itself is just octaves, whereas in the song I showed you previously was sort of block chords. And well, this has a different tonal characteristic because it's a lot more. The pitch is less ambiguous. It's very strong, and you know that is the line.
The feeling is millions so long ago. The cracks were shown. We should have known.
Another useful trick I've which I've used a little bit later on, is an arpeggiator on a second vocoder. Let me just open that up. There we go. So this automates the line, this chord here, which goes with the harmonic change during this section, just automates up during this particular line. So I'll just play that. So those clicks there weren't in the project, that's just my computer trying to screen capture and play this simultaneously. But you can see how this can have different creative uses.